I just had one of the most uncomfortable conversations of my career, telling my client that they were the reason why their marketing wasn't working. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the reason this client we had who was mainly marketing their bus company and bus type services was struggling so much. And what I said to her that I didn't think she would take as well as she did, because my advice really cut down to it. I didn't mince words, and I let her know exactly how I felt and exactly what I thought she could do to turn things around. So, a little bit of background. We signed this client up about 6 months ago. And since they had signed up, I just noticed that the sales issue was a struggle. At first, they weren't following up right away. And then eventually, we had convinced them to be quicker on the follow up. Then they were following up. But to set the background, this was a company, as I mentioned, that rented or did bus services, so rented buses. And most of our clients do a lot of their quoting via text message. However, this client being in the bus space, and for anyone in the bus space, if you're sending a multiple $1,000 quote and you just send a text message, you don't care that much. Most of these bus jobs, there's more logistics involved. And so anyways, the first few calls we had had over the last few months, I really focused on trying to just inform the client of what could be done to improve her results, just advice. And so, a few days ago, I had one of our staff speak with her, and she felt that it was just not the greatest results, and she really wasn't happy. And so with these sorts of things, I like to dive into the accounts myself. I like to dive into their pay-per-click accounts, but more importantly, many times into their CRM. So into their database of their leads, because we can actually see how quickly they're following up. Are they sending text messages? Are they calling? And then we have all of the inbound and outbound calls recorded, which is more and more important, especially as we work with a lot of different bus companies. And so about 2 months ago, she switched over to just sending quick quotes, and she was quick at sending them, but a lot of these quotes were very large. And then I would notice in the text conversations, the clients would ask certain questions, and many times those questions wouldn't necessarily be answered in a way that conveyed a desire to work with that person. And it's like, who's giving who money here? So anyways, after this difficult conversation with one of our staff, I decided it's finally time for me to take a different approach at this and really get cut down to what I really felt the issue was. Because I had reviewed several phone calls, and I had found that on these calls that say luxury, she wasn't doing any of the things that say luxury service. And I'm going to go over those. But first, a quick recap. So the customer journey, our funnel is very simple at Limo Marketer, and for most Limo businesses, it's going to be relatively simple if you're doing paid ads. You have an ad on Google, on Microsoft, a search ad, right? So someone's actually searching for your service. They go to the landing page, and then we set that up, custom tailored just for the type of customer that's landing on the page, right? Not so much the type of vehicle, but the buyer persona. You want that landing page to speak to that buyer's persona and talk about the things they care about. And then finally, the follow-up. This is something we didn't focus on years ago, Limo Marketer, but I increasingly found out that it was the weak link in the chain. And so what I found is you really have to have all of these things dialed in to do well with online marketing. Otherwise, you're either going to break even or maybe even lose money. And that's another story. Most companies are losing money, but they just don't track it very well. And so they just keep doing it. So let's move on to, what am I talking about when I'm talking about luxury versus commodity? So this is something that we got into speaking about. And she had on multiple occasions said, we are not a cheap service or luxury service, and we don't want to work with anyone who just is only concerned about the price. And so whenever I hear this, it is kind of a tell that I need to do some education with that client, because are there some people that only care about price and that's it? Yes, but especially in the bus space, I would say that is not the number one thing. If you're doing airport transfers, that is probably closer to a commodity. But the bigger the vehicle you get into, especially when you're doing buses, I'm not talking about party buses, but when you're doing anything from minibus to the 55, 56 passenger motor coaches, that's mostly B2B, meaning business to business. Businesses are contacting you. And what you'll find is typically with business to business, they're not as price sensitive because it's value they're looking for. And so the question is, what creates value and what are the key elements of quote unquote luxury? Well, I really see it as 4 different things. So in this first little box here is the tone and the energy. The way I always like to explain this is do yourself a favor one of these days and call the Four Seasons, call the Ritz, call some luxury high-end hotel. Listen to how they speak with you, right? What do they say? Are they upbeat? Are they cheerful? We have all been to a restaurant, to a coffee shop, to any sort of place we're going to purchase food or drinks or really any, and the person working with us is upbeat and cheerful. It puts us in a better mood. We have a better experience. Many times we spend more money and many times they get a much bigger tip. Now, we've also been in a situation where we've been to a coffee shop or a restaurant and the server wasn't very helpful, was just doing the bare minimum, and we could tell probably wasn't in the greatest mood, right? And the strange thing is it really does sour the whole experience. And it's really wild how, that's really the case and it's so common. And that's why all the good restaurants and really any sort of retail store recognizes this and train their employees to be smiling, to be someone other people would be happy to buy from and want to spend time around. And so when I was reviewing these calls, the calls were not rude. It was just on the border of rude. And if there were too many questions or questions could be perceived as like a quote unquote dumb question, like, oh, unfortunately, they were just not talked to in a way you should be for someone who is eventually, hopefully, going to be giving you money, right? And so this is a big one. And I would say in this industry, it's a huge problem. I've called lots of car service providers because I like to just do research, see what's out there. And I'd recommend for those of you watching this, call around in your city, try to get quotes. What you will find is lots of people answer their phones like car service. Yeah, how can I help you? Yep, hello, how can I help you? That is not it. It's, hey, what's up? My name's Mark. I'm from Mark's Limos. Hey, thanks so much for calling. How can we help you today? Right? So enthusiastic, right? You want to be enthusiastic about helping and you want to be in an upbeat mood. It's not easy to do this and not everyone's cut out for it. I'll tell you right now, I'm not cut out for it because it's not easy. And you really just have to, no matter what sort of day you're having, you have to, act like you're playing a role, right? Because, not every day is a good day. And so some people are better than others at it. So that's a big one. So value add. What am I talking about here? I am talking about things like, do you know the venues in your area? Do you know the parking situations? Do you know the best routes? Because here is what people want to hear. First off, I recommend every single bus lead, give them a call, find out. Some people don't want to talk on the phone, fine. You can text them a quote, but don't look at it as if they're renting a certain size bus for a certain number of hours that comes with a chauffeur. Because if you do that, if that's how you look at it, this is what you are. So this is no profit on this end, good profit on this end. Okay, so if you want to be a commodity, I want you to really focus on the type of bus, the number of hours, where you're picking them up, where you're going to. That's all you should care about, right? Nothing else matters. Now, if you actually want to make money, which hopefully most of you watching this video do want to make money, especially if you're spending it on advertising, you want to make profit. And if you want to make profit, you want to add value. And so instead of being a bus rental company, what you are is you're a transportation consultant. And this can even go for those of you who do stretch limos, party buses, whatever it might be, even black car, right? Now, this won't be as popular with sedan SUV clients of ours because many times if it's a very cut and dry airport transfer, I understand some of our clients send text quotes, but I can tell you one thing, if you call every one of your leads, you will make more money and you will forge more relationships and have a much higher chance to get a repeat client. But so along with the tone and energy, if they're filling out a form and let's say they have 30 people and you see that the pickup and drop off is the same, they want to do an hourly sort of thing, you pick up the phone and you call them. You want to figure out, hey, what are you guys doing? What's the occasion? Or maybe it's a business thing, right? Oh, are you guys going to a conference? Oh, we work with that venue all the time. Oh yeah, we always do business there. Yeah, I know the GM there. Obviously, you don't want to make this up, but many of you watching this do have all of this knowledge. And you know, when people ask, well, how are we, you know, Uber, Lyft, all this stuff, this is it. The value add. It's your specific knowledge. I have a client in New York who's told me a few times he does the NYC fashion shows and he knows all of the coordinators at this show. He could probably charge double or triple. And I know he charges a large premium because he has so much specific knowledge on just all the permitting. Like they call him and many times these people, like price is what number 5 or 6. It's the show must happen correctly and we want the best person for it. That's when you can charge pretty substantial premiums. But if you have all this specific knowledge and you're just texting people quotes, hello, you're a commodity, okay? That's okay if you don't want to make any money, but don't do online advertising. And honestly, don't get me wrong. Can you get by? Yes, but you will never have that profitable of a business. And if you're watching me and saying, Mark, this kind of makes sense, but you know, that just seems like something that I just can't see myself doing, then find someone else. Just make sure you incentivize them, right? So if they get lots of bookings and they make the same amount as if they got no bookings, that's not what you want, right? Consultative approach. So this kind of piggybacks on the value add, right? It's giving them a call and really figuring out what's the goal. And for many times we think, well, it's simple. They want to move a certain number of people from A to B, right? And maybe it is that simple. But once you get on the phone with someone, you're going to learn so much more about their situation. The contact form, I think I get it because everyone's dream in this industry, in the limo industry, I know, and bus industry is, can you just send them to our website and have them book online? Can they please just do that? Like the goal is never have to like book online, you know, it's cut and dry. Here's the thing, it's cut and dry for you, right? Because you've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, right? You've done a million times. You've done it for so long that you almost think it's common knowledge, but it's not, right? And a lot of this stuff is intimidating. And that's why having this approach, I promise you, will win you far more clients and it won't be about price, okay? If you're doing all these 3 things, that's the last thing that they're going to think about, right? I promise you this works. Give it a shot, okay? And again, if you don't think you can be cheerful, consistently, then have someone else do it. Okay, so lastly, the follow-up system. So this is, I guess you could call it an element of luxury service because look, at the end of the day, you want to be serving this customer, right? And so if you call them and quote them and help them out, and then you never follow up with them again, I mean, well, for one, that's definitely going to be leaving money on the table for you. But 2, you likely are, if you're doing all these things, then you are the person that can likely help them the most. And so I would look at it that way, and that, you know, these people will likely have a much better event or whatever they're doing if you're doing all these things, you should be working with them. And so having a follow-up system, what I mean by that is like what we do for our clients at Limo Marketer is, SMS follow-ups, email follow-ups, depending on the types of client it is. Sometimes, we do multiple of them. And so you really want to follow up even post-quote, because if you don't, I guarantee you, you are going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. So anyways, guys, if you could just start incorporating this here, no matter if you do buses or not, really, these still all apply to black car. It applies to stretch limos, party buses. Get to know who's calling in, because you're going to get a much better feel for what they actually need. And I'll tell you how you can really earn a client for life. If they call you or they contact you thinking they need something for 10 hours, but you save them a little bit of money, right? When they know you would have actually made more, but that wasn't the right solution for them, okay? And by the way, this is what you should be doing always, because I promise you, in the long run, taking care of your customers will pay off. Even if in the short run it means making less, I promise you, your reputation over the years will just get better and better and better and better. And you wonder how some of these huge companies that farm out a ton of work, the reason they're as big as they are now is because they've been doing what I just mentioned, which is giving their clients, not overselling to them, helping them, doing all these things consistently for 20, 30, 40 years. Those are businesses that have tremendous, tremendous value. And I want you to always be thinking, where are you on this spectrum? The more you talk about number of hours, the type of vehicle you have, the number of seats, where you're picking up, where you're going to, that says commodity. The more you focus on really being a luxury service, even though many of you say you're a luxury service, you're not, because luxury service is doing all these things. And just a funny side note, the last thing you want to do is when someone calls and gets a quote over the phone, tell them, oh, yeah, so go ahead and just go on our website and go ahead and fill in all your details and then we can book you. If you go and give them a job to do after they just called you, I've seen it before. I know, I don't think most transportation companies do that, but man, sometimes I see the wildest things and it makes me wonder how people are able to afford the marketing in the first place if that's what they're doing. So anyways, guys, I hope this was helpful. Remember, we don't want to be a commodity. We want to be a luxury service provider, but remember, tone and energy, add value, give specific knowledge, have a consultative approach. Maybe the thing they filled out on the form isn't actually what they need, right? Find out what they're doing, how many people, any sort of details that can help. And then finally, if you're just quoting them and then never touching base again, ask yourself, why would you do that, right? Like, it's typically about 1/100 to 1/500 of the cost. Like if a lead costs $20, $25, to send a follow-up text message costs about 1 to 2 cents typically. And so even if you do 10 follow-up text messages, that's like 20 cents. And you spent like, 100 times that or more on the lead itself. So yeah, ask yourself why, if you don't have a follow-up system in place, you should get one. So anyways, guys, I'll see you on the next video. And by the way, in the comments, let me know, is this connecting with any of you? I hope this is valuable, explaining commodity versus luxury. And it's really on a spectrum, right? I mean, this is like, you have the high-end luxury like Louis Vuitton, stuff like that. That's kind of a different thing. But hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you like content like this. And if you don't, you're like, Mark, this sucks, I didn't learn anything. Give me some suggestions for some other content to shoot, because, I always love hearing from you viewers. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one.